Hey, today I want to chat with you guys about North Korea, a mysterious country that sounds strange but super interesting at the same time. Over there, the cost of living is pretty cheap, but getting in, not easy at all. The streets are so quiet, hardly any cars zooming around, yet you've got these pretty female traffic cops standing there directing things, looking all graceful and charming. The culture's got this strong traditional vibe, but it comes with some really strict rules that sometimes make me feel a bit overwhelmed. Let's dive in together and see what's so special about life in this place they call the most closed-off country in the world, alright? When you mention North Korea, people instantly think of this secretive nation like it's a whole different world that almost no one gets to step foot in. It's not like other Asian countries, that's for sure. Living there might be cheap, but trying to move in or even visit as a tourist, tough as climbing to the sky. The streets are dead quiet, no cars roaring by like in Vietnam or Thailand, but then, you've got these female traffic cops standing out there, directing traffic with such elegance that they've basically become a city icon. The culture's all about tradition, super old school, but the rules? Man, they're so strict it gives me chills sometimes. So, I thought, why not take you all on a little trip to check out what life's like in this ultra-secretive spot? What's so cool about it that the whole world's curious? North Korea isn't the kind of place where you can just hop on a plane and visit whenever you feel like it. It's got this weird, fascinating charm like a book with a gorgeous cover, but when you flip it open, it's full of surprises. The streets are calm, people live in this super orderly way, no loud chaos or anything. The coolest part though, those traffic cops, they're out there in the middle of the road, waving their hands to guide traffic, looking both serious and totally unique, impossible to mistake for anyone else. The culture sticks to its traditional roots, from how people dress to how they go about their days, but the laws, no joking around. Mess up, and you're done for. So, if I ever got the chance to imagine stepping into this place, it'd definitely be an unforgettable experience. North Korea sits on the Korean peninsula. You've probably heard of it because it's famous for being split into North and South Korea. Up north it borders China and a tiny bit of Russia, down south is South Korea, and it's got sea on both sides with a coastline stretching 1,550 miles. Sounds dreamy just hearing that. It's not a small country by any means, but the weather? Brutal. Winter's so cold it cuts through you, sometimes dropping below -30°C. Just thinking about it gives me goosebumps. Then summer rolls in, hot and sticky, the kind of humid heat that leaves you dripping sweat, not exactly comfy. They've got about 26 million people and most of them are packed into Pyongyang, their capital. Pyongyang's planned out to a T. None of that messy, chaotic city vibe you see elsewhere. The streets are spotless, buildings all neat and tidy. You can tell they've got a solid system in place. Everyone there is Korean, no big mix of ethnic groups like we've got here. But their language? It's different from South Korea's, same roots but it's evolved in its own direction, so you can tell right away when someone's from the north. They've also got this unique mindset where they see the whole Korean peninsula as one unified country, not split into two like the rest of the world does. Sounds odd, but for them, it's a belief they've held onto forever. Another cool thing about North Korea is they don't use the regular calendar like we do, you know, the Gregorian one the whole world follows. Nope, they've got their own thing called the Juche calendar, starting from the birth year of Kim Il-sung, their first leader. So while it's 2025 for us, over there it's year 114. Weird, right? Instead of counting from year 1 like us, they kick off from 1912 when Kim Il-sung was born, and just add the years up. That really shows their vibe. They're so devoted to their leaders they've even rewritten how time works. Pretty wild stuff. If you're a foreigner lucky enough to visit North Korea, the first thing that hits you is how strange it feels stepping off the plane at Sunan Airport. The atmosphere's just different, not loud or bustling, but quiet in this odd way. When you get to Pyongyang, it's modern in its own style, not hectic like New York or Tokyo. The streets are clean, everything's orderly, people move like they're following a rule book. No pushing or shouting matches here. But here's the weird part. There are tons of high-rise buildings, all impressive looking, but no elevators. Locals have to climb stairs. Imagine hiking up to the 10th or 20th floor. You'd be wiped out. Over here, transportation's mostly subways, buses, and trams. You won't see motorbikes zipping around like back home. Their subway system is crazy deep, like 110 meters underground, and it's not just for getting around. Word is, it doubles as a shelter too. Probably because they're always prepped for emergencies like war or something. Getting around here? No worries about traffic jams since there aren't many vehicles, but trying out that subway would probably be pretty cool. If you're a foreigner visiting, you'll usually have a guide leading you around. No wandering off on your own, everything's planned out, so it feels a bit restrictive. Daily life in North Korea has so many weird quirks that just blow my mind. First off, no lively street food scene like we've got. No sitting on the sidewalk slurping pho or munching on smoky grilled skewers. Eating here seems more low-key, not flashy at all. Internet, basically non-existent. They're stuck with some internal websites like their own little network. No scrolling Facebook or Googling stuff. Sounds kinda dull, but for them, it's probably normal since they've grown up with it. The women here dress so elegantly simple but with this classy touch. They often wear badges with their leaders' faces on them, like it's a must-have part of their style. But if you're a tourist, don't even think about trying one on for fun. It's seen as disrespectful. You might just get fined if you're lucky, or worse, end up in jail. Oh, and like I mentioned, traffic's handled by these female cops who are both gorgeous and stern. They've basically become a Pyongyang icon. Tons of foreigners want to snap pics of them, but you've got to ask first or you'll get a quick warning. Talking about North Korea without bringing up the military? That'd be a huge miss. The army isn't just a part of life here, it's practically the backbone of the whole country. I heard guys have to serve 10 years in the military. Insane, right? It's like their entire youth is spent in uniform. Girls get off a bit easier, but they still have to serve until at least 23. So, when they're young and barely figuring out life, they're already in boots, holding rifles and training day and night. Just hearing that feels heavy, doesn't it? Society here is disciplined to a scary level. Everything's super organized, no laid-back freedom like we're used to. They call it highly militarized. From adults to kids, everyone's shaped by this military mindset. Word is, North Korea's got about 1 million regular soldiers, proper pros, plus another 6 million militia. That's almost a quarter of the population ready to grab a gun if something goes down. Those numbers are wild. Makes you think if they ever mobilized, the world would have to watch out. But the military's importance isn't just about numbers. Being a soldier or tied to the army is a big deal here, like a family pride thing. If you make it into the military, especially a high-up spot, your whole family gets a boost, and people look at you differently. On the flip side, dodging service or slacking off probably gets you some serious side-eye. I imagine life here must be intense, always on alert, like the whole country's one giant boot camp. Still, what's weird is, even with all this military vibe, people go about their daily lives, working, studying, just with this army shadow hanging over everything. Kids probably learn to stand straight and march in step from the time they're tiny. I've heard of videos showing elementary schoolers doing drills, looking like real soldiers even though they're so little. That's gotta be their culture, totally different from the chill vibe in other places. The army isn't just for defense or fighting either. They pitch in on stuff like building bridges, roads, or helping out civilians when needed. Basically, soldiers here don't sit around, there's always something to do. I think that's kinda neat, keeping them ready while also pitching in for the country in their own way. But living in that kind of setup must be exhausting. I wonder if people here ever feel suffocated. When you're in North Korea, one thing jumps out: the streets are dead quiet. No roaring traffic or honking jams like in Hanoi or Saigon. I heard the whole country's only got about 30,000 cars, tiny compared to 26 million people. That's like one car for every 800 folks, while back home, motorbikes alone flood the roads. So, don't expect traffic jams or blaring horns, it's peaceful in a weird way. But having so few cars doesn't mean just anyone can own one. Most of them belong to government bigwigs or the military. You've got to have power or connections to roll around in one. Regular folks? Almost never. You'd probably need to be loaded or know the right people to snag a car, and they're not rocking fancy brands like Toyota or Honda. It's mostly old models or stuff they make themselves. Rumor has it, you might spot a Mercedes cruising by now and then, but no official dealerships, probably smuggled in or gifted from abroad. So, without cars, how do people get around? Easy bikes, buses, or the subway? Bicycles are everywhere, city or countryside, with adults and kids pedaling to work or school like it's no big deal. Picture Pyongyang's wide-open streets with just bikes rolling by. Kinda cool, right? Buses and subways are the main public options, especially in big cities like Pyongyang. I already told you about the subway, 110 meters deep, good for travel and hiding out. Buses can get packed, but it's all orderly, no shoving matches here. Here's the odd part, no motorbikes. Back home they're the kings of the road, super handy, but in North Korea? Zilch. Not sure if they're banned or just not a thing, but without them, the streets feel even quieter. Maybe that's why those female traffic cops stand out so much. With so few vehicles, they're mostly there to look good, not wrestle with gridlock. There are probably a bunch of reasons why there are so few cars. For one, it's the economy. North Korea isn't exactly rolling in cash, so it's tough for regular folks to afford a car. Then there's the policy side of things. They keep a tight grip on who can own personal vehicles, not encouraging the whole everyone gets a car vibe like in other countries. Plus, their transportation setup doesn't really need tons of cars anyway. Most people live in concentrated areas, and public transport like buses and subways gets the job done. I heard someone say the lack of cars might also be about keeping the air clean and cutting down on pollution, but I'm not sure if that's legit or just a rumor. All in all, the quiet streets give North Korea this really unique vibe. It's not modern in that busy, car-packed way, it's more peaceful, slow-paced in its own style. If I ever got the chance to visit, I think I'd love walking or biking down those wide-open roads, soaking in the scenery without any noise bothering me. But honestly, it might feel a bit lonely too. There's none of that lively buzz we've got back home, like the soul of the streets is kinda missing. So that's it. I bet you've got a decent picture of North Korea by now, right? It's seriously a one-of-a-kind place, totally unlike anywhere I've ever heard of. It's got this mix of old and new, traditional yet bizarre, like the past, present, and future are all tangled up together. The streets are so calm, people live in this oddly orderly way, and the culture's so distinct you couldn't mistake it for anywhere else. But here's the thing. Hearing about it is cool, the pics look great, but to really get what life's like there, you'd have to grab a backpack and see it for yourself. Getting there's no walk in the park though. This place is super closed off. Not just anyone can waltz in, but that mystery is exactly what makes me curious, you know? I'd love to check out those graceful traffic cops in person, ride that subway 110 meters underground, or just pedal a bike down a quiet Pyongyang street. What about you guys? If you had the chance, would you go for it? I reckon if I ever did, it'd be a trip I'd never forget. Anyway, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching, and if you liked it, drop your thoughts below, okay? See ya!